My wife had multiple affairs. Hi Reddit, I'm Marcus. I used to think the worst sound in a house was a slammed door. Now I know it's the quiet after, the part where you check if the frame's cracked, the pictures are crooked, if something subtle shifted, and you'll only notice next week when you're reaching for your keys and they aren't where they used to be. I'm 41. I have 2 kids, Jack 13 and Emma 9. Their mother is my wife, was my wife, Lena. Most days I don't know which tense is the mercy and which is the wound. I'm writing this because I need to put the story somewhere that isn't my chest. If you find it, read it like a long exhale. I won't pretend there's a twist. The bad thing is exactly what you think. The worst thing is what it did to our kids. If you'd asked me 5 years ago what kind of husband I was, I would have told you I was the sturdy furniture of our family. The reliable table leg. I kept the calendar synced, remembered dentist appointments, made sure the oil changes and water filters weren't a crisis. I grilled on Sundays. I made pancakes shaped like letters. Lena was the light, social, quick with a joke, the one who convinced us to drive to the beach at midnight just to feel the water on our ankles. We were uneven, but in a way that felt like gravity, not like falling. The first time I knew something was wrong, it didn't look like anything big. It was a Friday during lockdown. We were playing a board game. Jack was losing, which he hates, and Emma kept offering him her victory points like that would fix the disappointment. Lena's phone lit up on the table. "You up, sunshine? H?" Just that, a nothing, a typo in a life. Lena let it light her face and didn't move to hide it. "Work," she said, "Harper. The way you slap a label on a box and shove it in the basement." I told myself not to be the suspicious husband. I had no evidence, only a gut that felt like it was holding a magnet near a compass and pretending the needle wasn't twitching. We started collecting small deviations. She laughed in a different register when she texted. She bought 2 new outfits that didn't fit her I run PTA and wear cardigans aesthetic. She put a passcode on her phone. Her eyelashes got heavier, and so did the pauses between our conversations. I asked once, carefully, "Everything good?" and got that cheerfully irritated tone people use when they're holding a small animal behind their back. "Yeah, Marcus. Everything is good. God, can I just be allowed to have something for myself?" She said it like I'd asked for a kidney. I said sorry, and we hummed along. I didn't find a ride for another 3 months. I wasn't looking. I don't have the Snoop gene. I was trying to upload an old video to the family album, and her iPad was the only thing not dead. I opened photos and there it was. A selfie, Lena in a coat I didn't know she owned, a shadow on the edge of the frame. Behind her, a man's hand making rabbit ears. Another photo, his face, clean-shaven, prematurely gray at the temples, that expensive casual look men get when they own 2 pairs of shoes they call Italian like a personality. Caption, "Lunch with my sunshine." His name was Holt. Not Harper. Marketing director at some boutique firm downtown. I googled him the way you Google a lump. Married, 2 kids. Favorite quote on LinkedIn about being relentless with your joy. People love telling on themselves. I can count the seconds my life was 2 things at once, the old life and the new. Seeing that photo was one of them. I didn't scream, I didn't call her. I closed the iPad. I sat on the floor in the hallway and pressed my forehead to the wall like it had something to say. That night Lena came home late, smelling like a citrus I'd never noticed before. She put her bag down like she'd just put down a different person's secrets. I asked, "How was your day?" She said, "Good," and kissed my cheek. Somewhere in the house, the dishwasher changed cycles. The cat scratched the arm of the couch. A neighbor's muffler did its death rattle. The whole world made small noises like a chorus of witnesses. I waited until the kids were asleep, then asked, "Who's Holt?" She didn't flinch, which scared me more than if she had. "A friend," she said, "the kind of friend you keep in a different vocabulary. We got lunch." "Are you having an affair?" Jesus, Marcus. You think I'd be that stupid? I thought of the photos, the way her face softened like bread dough around him, the way she'd started humming in the mornings again. I said the only thing I could say that wouldn't throw a match. "Can we go to counseling?" "Counseling," she repeated, like the word had been left in the rain. "Sure. If it makes you feel better." Counseling was 2 sessions and a snowstorm. The therapist asked us to use I feel statements, so I said, "I feel like there's a closed door somewhere in our house I don't have a key to." Lena said, "I feel like I'm suffocating." The therapist asked if there was anything either of us wanted to disclose. Lena looked at me like disclosure itself was an accusation. We didn't go back. We started doing that thing where you're loving next to each other, 2 radio stations playing, both insisting you can hear the other fine. I told myself there are bad stretches in marriages. I told myself she'd come back if I left the light on. There were others, though I didn't know yet. Affairs are like mold. Once you find a patch, you realize it's been making patterns in the drywall. Holt was the obvious one. Then a work trip that was just far enough away to be inconvenient and just short enough to be plausible. A gym membership she used precisely 3 times with gym selfies posted oddly at sunset. I kept telling myself a story where I was being paranoid, where the alternative was so humiliating I'd rather be wrong. Our son, Jack, noticed before I admitted I had. The first time he asked, we were in the minivan, drive-through line, his chin at that angle teenagers get when they're watching you through the corner of their eye. Is mom mad at us? He asked. No, I lied. Adults just get quiet sometimes. He nodded like he'd asked the wrong question but still learned the answer. The second man was a neighbor, 2 streets over, ran marathons and conversations with equal appetite. I found out because Emma learns everything like the house is a whisper she understands. She drew a picture in school, mommy in a pink dress, holding hands with a tall man wearing a blue hat. I joked, who's your friend? She said, that's mommy's running buddy. He brings juice boxes. Emma doesn't lie unless you put her in a sweater she hates. I didn't confront Lena. I learned what every person who loves a liar learns: you ration your questions. Each one costs you a piece of your own voice. Here's the part where people ask, why didn't you leave? I had the keys. I had a job. I wasn't trapped. The true answer is messy. I loved her. Not the version in the photos or the one who rolled her eyes in counseling, but the person I knew before I needed to know anything. We had 12 years of spaghetti nights and summer road trips and inside jokes you can't explain to anyone else because they're not funny, they're just a language. I loved our kids more, and I thought leaving would be like pulling the plug on their childhood. So I stayed. I became the kind of man who Googles how to forgive cheating at 2 a.m. and then clears his browser history like that matters. I kept a dry erase board of everyone's schedules. I watched my own hands wash dishes and wondered if I looked like a good father from the outside. The third man, when you count, you start to say numbers instead of names, like it's easier that way, was the one who broke the kids. Not because he was better looking or worse behaved or asked Lena to change her hair, but because he was careless. His name was Kyle. Freelance photographer with an Instagram of sunrises that made you feel like you were late to your own life. He posted a shot of Lena's hand in a cafe, just the fingers curled around a mug, her ring turned inward, a caption, found light. He tagged the location. Jack's best friend Ethan saw it on the Explore page and sent it to Jack with a skull emoji, because 13-year-old boys use morbid humor for everything serious. Jack asked me, careful like defusing a bomb, do you think mom is happy? It's almost funny, in a way you don't laugh at. He didn't ask if she was cheating. He asked if she was happy, as if either answer would require him to brace. I asked where the question came from. He showed me the photo. My heart did that thing where it looks for a place to hide and finds nowhere. I said, that's a nice picture. He said, Dad, in a tone that made me realize he was giving me a chance to not lie. I said, I don't know, Jack. I'm trying to figure it out. He nodded, took the phone back like it was contaminated, and looked out the window so hard I thought we'd see through the glass. That night I told Lena I knew about Kyle. She didn't deny it. She said, what do you want me to say, Marcus? That question is a weapon when someone has the facts and you have the feeling. You could say you're sorry, I said. You could say you'll stop. You could say you want to keep our family. She rubbed her temples. I want to want those things. I need you to actually want them. I don't know what I want. She went to bed. I sat at the kitchen table, hands on the wood, feeling the faint grooves from years of homework and art projects. The cat jumped up and headbutted my elbow because animals don't care about the narrative. I drafted a list of options like I was at work. Separate quietly, separate loudly, stay and pretend better, stay and build rules. I felt like a man making a spreadsheet for a house fire. I told the kids we were taking a break. Jack said, so like Ross and Rachel? He smiled with that forced brightness kids use when they hate the joke but need it. Emma cried into my shirt until the cotton had a map of her face. We tried nesting. Kids stay in the house, parents swap. It lasted a month. It felt like being roommates with a ghost. I could smell Lena's perfume in the hall but not find the person wearing it. I left notes on the counter like a polite intruder. Milk in the back, garbage day Tuesday. The kids adjusted and then didn't. Jack started wearing his hoodie in July. He'd sit on the edge of the couch, hands tucked into his sleeves, talking to me while staring at the blank TV screen like he was waiting for it to show him something worth recognizing. Emma stopped drawing people and only drew houses, 1,000 houses with tiny windows, like she was trying to design a place grief couldn't sneak into. At school, Jack punched a locker. He told the vice principal he was practicing drums. I got a phone call I'd been dreading without knowing the shape of it. I picked him up from the office, watched him haul his backpack like it was full of rocks, and asked what happened. It made a noise, he said. The locker? Me. He flexed his fingers. The knuckles were swollen, small planets trying to rotate. Angry? I feel full, he said. And not in a good way. We drove to the park and sat in the car, air conditioning humming. I told him what I wish I'd heard at 13, you're allowed to have feelings that don't fit in your body. You can tell me anything and it won't make me love you less. He nodded, mouth pressed into a line like he was trying to keep a secret inside his lips. Are we still a family? He asked. Yes, I said, and realized I needed to figure out what that meant when the picture in the frame changes. Emma found out the loud way. Kids always do. She was at Lena's. Kyle came by to drop off a camera lens. Emma opened the door because 9-year-olds love being helpful. Later, when Lena went to shower, she asked him, are you mom's sunshine? He laughed and said, I'm everyone's sunshine. The kind of empty joke adults make when they think children live in a cartoon. Emma told me the next day, like she was confessing to stealing a cookie. Her voice went small. He said he was sunshine. She put her hand on my cheek like she was checking if I was a robot. "Are you okay, Daddy?" I told her yes, which was generous with the truth. She asked, "If Mom has sunshine, do you get night?" I didn't have a better answer than, "I get morning." She smiled like it was good, which is the cruelty of children. They will accept your metaphors as currency. We stopped nesting. I couldn't keep moving my toothbrush back and forth like a prisoner on work release. I found an apartment a few blocks away with a view of a brick wall that turns orange in the evening. I bought a couch that's too big because the kids will sit on one end and lean all their weight into me. There should be room for that. Lena told me she wanted space to explore. She said the sentence with a careful kindness that made me want to throw the word kind off a bridge. I said, "I want to file." She cried, not the body-racked grief of losing something sacred, but the tidy tears of losing a version of yourself you liked. She asked if we could pause. I told her our kids are not a podcast. I don't know how to describe the feeling of signing a document that makes your hands belong to you again. Relief is a word too small. It's like walking out of a department store and realizing you were holding a sweater you didn't want to buy the whole time. You feel guilty for a second and then you feel your fingers. Jack took it like a person who hates being seen taking things. He started waking up early and going for runs, pounding the sidewalk like it did something to him. One morning he came back and went straight to the sink, turned on the cold water, and stuck his wrist under it. I asked, "Too hot out?" He said, "It helps," which is a complete sentence when you're 13. Emma asked if she could sleep at my place when Lena had friends over. I didn't ask which friend. I said yes and bought a nightlight shaped like a fox because she said foxes are brave. She put it on the dresser and said, "We can be foxes, okay?" I said okay and swallowed the part where I wanted to be a bear. People ask where it broke for me, like they want a pin in the map. There were hundreds. But if I had to choose, it was a Thursday. Jack had a science project about ecosystems. He built a miniature wetland in a plastic tub, gravel and peat moss and a little pump to make a trickle of water. He was proud of it in the way he's afraid to be proud, like he's waiting for someone to knock it over, so he never set it down without bracing his palms on either side. Lena was supposed to stop by, see it before he presented. She texted, "Running late, hold dinner." We held. 7:15, 8 to 8:30. Jack said, "It's fine," and turned on the pump. We watched the trickle and pretended it was the point. At 9, she sent, "So sorry, rain check?" with 3 exclamation points, because some people think punctuation is a hug. Jack didn't say anything. He turned off the pump, walked to his room, closed the door. I stood there with a tub of artificial nature in my hands and thought, I cannot keep asking my child to live in someone else's rain check. We finished the divorce in spring. Co-parenting plan, neutral language, all the words people use when they're trying to keep the mess from staining the rug. Lena came over once to talk logistics. She stood in the doorway of my apartment, looked at the too big couch, the Fox nightlight, and said, "You're good at this." I said, "At what age?" She said, "Making the soft places." I said, "I learned." She paused, then, "I'm sorry." The kind of apology that is true in the moment it's said and then floats away like a dandelion. "I know," I said. Both words were true. We finished the divorce in spring. Co-parenting plan, neutral language, all the words people use when they're trying to keep the mess from staining the rug. Lena came over once to talk logistics. She stood in the doorway of my apartment, looked at the too big couch, the Fox nightlight, and said, "You're good at this." I said, "At what?" She said, "Making the soft places." I said, "I learned." She paused, then, "I'm sorry." The kind of apology that is true in the moment it's said and then floats away like a dandelion. "I know," I said. Both words were true. Healing is not cinematic. It's not a montage and a new haircut. It's a long series of boring decisions, like eating breakfast and going outside even when the sky is the color of a bruise. It's Jack asking to change his lock screen to a photo of the 3 of us at the state fair, and me saying yes even though it hurts in 2 directions. It's Emma insisting the Fox nightlight stay on even during the day because you never know when daytime will be scary. It's me Googling therapists who see teenagers and actually answering my phone when they call back. There are good days. We found a thrift store that sells mugs for 50 cents. We each picked one that didn't match. Jack's says, "World's best grandma." Emma's has a chip shaped like a heart. Mine is plain white and I wrote morning on it with a Sharpie. We had pancakes for dinner and I burned one and Emma called it a moon pancake and insisted on keeping it on the counter for luck. There are bad days. Jack went to a sleepover and came home with a story about another kid whose parents got back together because they loved each other too much to quit. He said it in a tone like he was reading a menu he didn't believe in. Emma cried at a commercial where a family adopted a dog, like joy was dangerous. I asked what we needed. She said, "A wall with windows." I said, "That's what a house is." She said, "No, a wall with windows in our hearts." I told her we could build that. I've never meant anything more. Healing is not cinematic. It's not a montage and a new haircut. It's a long series of boring decisions, like eating breakfast and going outside even when the sky is the color of a bruise. It's Jack asking to change his lock screen to a photo of the 3 of us at the state fair, and me saying yes even though it hurts in 2 directions. It's Emma insisting the Fox nightlight stay on even during the day because you never know when daytime will be scary. It's me Googling therapists who see teenagers and actually answering my phone when they call back. There are good days. We found a thrift store that sells mugs for 50 cents. We each picked one that didn't match. Jack says, world's best grandma. Emma's has a chip shaped like a heart. Mine is plain white and I wrote a morning on it with a Sharpie. We had pancakes for dinner and I burned one and Emma called it a moon pancake and insisted on keeping it on the counter for luck. There are bad days. Jack went to a sleepover and came home with a story about another kid whose parents got back together because they loved each other too much to quit. He said it in a tone like he was reading a menu he didn't believe in. Emma cried at a commercial where a family adopted a dog, like joy was dangerous. I asked what we needed. She said, a wall with windows. I said, that's what a house is. She said, no, a wall with windows in our hearts. I told her we could build that. I've never meant anything more. The last time Lena and I had a long conversation, it was in the high school parking lot after Jack's band concert. He plays drums now, loud and complicated, the kind of rhythms that make you count in your head. He walked off stage sweaty and grinning in a way I hadn't seen in months. We high-fived. Lena hugged him. For a second it felt like we were a photo, not a film. She and I stood by our cars. She said, he's doing better. I nodded. She said, I'm dating someone. I nodded again. He's not. Like the others, she added, the way smokers say they only smoke at parties. I said, I hope he isn't. She smiled a little. You're allowed to hate me, she said. I don't, I said, and it was true in a way that made me tired. I'm just very done being hurt by you. She nodded like that was a promotion she couldn't accept. Sometimes I still wake up at 2 in the morning and wait for the sound of the garage door. It's muscle memory. Sometimes I dream that we're back at the beach, Lena laughing, kids shrieking at cold water. I wake up and the room is quiet, my heart pounding like it's trying to leave my body through the ribs. I get up. I make tea. I look out at the brick wall. When the sun hits it, it goes orange like an apology that doesn't require forgiveness. I am not looking for permission or advice. I know the rightness of leaving doesn't erase the ache of what we left. I know my kids will have memories that look like both love and running, and I'm going to have to teach them those can coexist without making them liars. Jack is learning how to let the feeling pass through without punching a locker. He drums at the table and sometimes says, listen, and I do. Emma draws houses again, but now they have big windows and a fox on the roof. She shows me and says, I made us a morning. I put her picture on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a lemon. We stand there, the two of us, under bad light, and if you saw us from across the street you'd say, that looks like a family. People ask how many there were. 3 I can name. 2 I suspect. The math is not the story. The story is that I learned the difference between someone who wants you and someone who keeps you safe. The story is I stopped telling my kids they live inside a promise I couldn't make. I don't know where the silence goes when the house empties out. Maybe it goes into the walls and waits. Maybe it goes outside and becomes part of the weather. When I open the window and feel a breeze, I like to think some of that silence has forgiven me for the days I let it be louder than the truth. I am Marcus. I make breakfast and pack lunches and sign permission slips and vacuum the same corner 3 times because the crumbs hide. I write this so I don't have to carry it alone. I write this because my son asked if we are still a family, and the only honest answer is, yes, with different shapes. I write this because my daughter said we can be foxes. And in the morning, when the brick wall turns orange, it looks like she's right.